Okay. Okay. Like we said, welcome all to our session today, where we're going to learn a lot about CSU. I bet there'll be some things you never knew before about it when we're done. We'll just go right on through this. Let's see. This is in conjunction with, we actually had CSU Super Sunday at our church 2 Sundays ago. And I've always sort of covered this right around the same time. Because I know it's a good time. Beginning of spring kind of begins the admission season for class of 2024 anyway. And I think it's a good time to start thinking about college options. And I'll start with the most obvious, and you'll see why. Let's first talk about a few general things about application delivery and the process. Let's talk about how we actually deliver certain applications of different types, all right? So some applications you're familiar with, you're going to have a grade self-report, essays, and application delivery. This is UC, for example. There's going to be a grade self-report, there's going to be essays, and you're going to deliver the application. And you'll notice that this is really it. There aren't going to be any, for CSU anyway, notice there's no transcripts, no teacher recommendations. So the CSU process, basically the essays is the major challenge for that part of the process, all right? But then we have selective private colleges that have teachers' recommendations, transcripts before the application is delivered. So this is a good overview of the CSU application process. You'll notice in green is CSU, right? CSU is shown in green. There's a grade self-report, no essay. So there's no essay if you follow the green here for CSU. So that's how you know you have an amateur counselor at school, if they tell you have an essay for CSU. And by the way, if you're only applying to CSUs, you don't have to do essays, but in school, your teachers might still make the student do them because everybody feels that everybody has essays, I guess. And there you see UC is in red, it has essays, and then the selected private college. I hope that makes it clear to you. I was searching for a way months ago to make it very clear. This is the entire application delivery process. Of course, you could have the SAT, and I have it in dashes because our CSUs and UC, as you probably know, do not even read the SAT. So I have it correctly with a black arrow as part of the private school process. For most private schools, it's optional or required. And if it's optional, unless if it's optional, I take it as required, which is why we still have SAT prep. Let's go on. So talking about CSU, we do application delivery support for CSU. We told you it's a grade self-report and application delivery. So the student submits a data form to us, and we actually submit the application for the student because it's not user-friendly. But then we teach the student how to, follow up on their applications and open up their portals and keep involved in the process that way. That's far more important. That's where a lot of students fall off the process chart and miss information about CSU. So we're very, very much involved in the application support process for CSU. It's just a very minimal donation for that too. You'll probably consider that for us, especially if your student is busy in activities or busy with other applications. We definitely can offer significant support help. I do show the support cost there. Let's see. Let's talk about delivery support for UC and selective private college. We've shown that process before. We like to do oversight of the transcripts, yes, because transcripts can be delivered incorrectly. Often they are. We do delivery oversight for those. We do delivery oversight for the application itself. And of course, we do delivery oversight for SAT. We have SAT prep. Shouldn't say delivery oversight. We have SAT prep. And the essay, we do startup and supportive essay. We help the student to pick the essay, help them to develop it, and we review it and edit it for them. However, we do not suggest topics or write the essay. We just shine up what's already there. That's the way we really assist. And we talked about the grade self-report and how we're involved in the actual application process. Putting those grades in correctly and in the UC and the CSU is very important. Again, if there are any questions, you could just speak out since it's such a small group, or just raise your hand, however you want to do it. And one of my great workers will notice it, like Christina, for example. All right, application requirements. To summarize, UC has 4 essays, as you see from the chart. Oops, sorry about that. CSU has none. All right. Common application for private schools, and every private school doesn't have Common App. Most of the ones your student applies to will. They have 1 essay for Common App essay, plus some supplemental essays at times. Some of the most selective schools don't even have a supplemental essay. I think that's, I've always been, like Stanford doesn't have a supplemental essay. I think that's remarkable. Transcripts, look at the no's. No transcript is required for UC and CSU. It's a self-report. And for the Common App, they are looking for private schools, you are going to need to provide a 3-year transcript. Teacher recommendations, no for UC and CSU, yes for the Common Application. Again, this chart's pretty important for parents because I don't know how clear the counselors are. And some of them aren't too clear on this, but you do not have to send transcripts, and you should not send transcripts on UC and CSU. If you do, they're going to shred the transcripts anyway. How about that? Grade self-reports, yes, no for Common App, because they're going to have the transcript anyway. And what about research institution? The UCs are research institutions, which means that the amount of majors that UC offers, this might surprise some people, are way less than CSU and private colleges. In fact, you may be surprised that some of the UC campuses, the majors they do not have. So you want to really be careful that if you have a serious career path, that research school UC will support it. Even the most selective UCs, which are the big 4, UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and UC San Diego, you want to be sure there is a career path when you have a research school. I think UC generally has 1/3 of the majors of CSU. Think about that. That's why a lot of people feel that CSUs are, quote, in quotes, better for career. And career is really what it's about. You got to pay your loans off. You got to get your life started. I think I have a lot of students that graduate from UC. If they stay close to me, they find a job. In general, UC graduates, when I hear people who aren't in the program, tend to walk in circles and go for a master's. And that's okay too, I suppose, but I like to see a career start is most of the time. I see Brother Rex has a question or a comment, one or the other way.
Yeah, it's a question of clarification.
Sure.
So the way I read this, you have 3 columns. The last column is Common App application. From me, this correct me if I'm wrong, the transcripts and the teacher recommendations are embedded in the Common Application. Is that what we're saying?
Sometimes they're embedded and sometimes they're part of that process. So they're part of the process of doing a Common App private school.
Okay, so
again, yes, go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay, so a UC school like UCLA would get the transcripts and the letters of recommendation through the Common App. I guess that's the question.
No, they have their own application.
Okay,
so
that's the clarification. Thank you.
These columns are like walls. They all have. It's funny. UC and CSU each have their own application process, and UC does not require recommendations or transcripts. A lot of people are shocked by that. It's a self-report. And now, when they admit, that's why the admissions are provisional. You hear about that in a minute. You hear me talking about provisional acceptance. And I do mention UC at that point as well. This is a lot focused around CSU. Okay, let's look at the application process. I think we showed this to class of 2024 last time. This is the way we see it. This is our unique breakdown of schools. We break them into categories, and they all have unique application processes. So we see them this way: out-of-state public universities is the first type of school your student will encounter. Those are done very early, as you'll see in a moment. September 15th, you can start doing those. Some of those sooner, by the way. California State University, you can start October 1st to the 31st. Although the deadline is, priority deadline is November 30th. Just about, I'd say 2/3 of the CSUs had extended deadlines, and some just closed because enrollments are down in CSU and UC this year. They're down by 12 to 15%. Early action private colleges, typically November 1st to 15th is when you do those. There's some private colleges, see the dollar sign I have, that's not a typo. Some private colleges, the only 90% of the money they give out is to early action students. So clearly, if you're on my program, I'm pushing you to apply early. Like if you're going to apply to Loyola Marymount, I would say somewhat Howard, and there's some other schools. If there's a Christian college that's selective, I think they should apply between November 1st and 15th. Now, I saw a lot this year, kids trying to have 9 and 10 schools applying early. In fact, in general, since the pandemic has wound down, I've seen very long college lists. I'll talk about that in the next meeting, what length the list should be. So I'm trying to focus us to moving toward CSU, but in meeting 5, you can believe I'm going to cover that. Meeting 4, I guess. Universities of California, they open up November 1st for application, although you can start filling them out in August, as early as August or July. I think they start in July this year. But I mean, it's just filling out an application. I mean, do you realize filling out the UC application is only about, like, I'm gonna ask, hey, Sister Brianna,
Yes.
you know UC has 4 essays, right? You know that. So what percentage of the work hours on a UC application are the essay as opposed to filling out the application?
I would say between 75 to 80%, because that's the main bulk of it. And then the people fill out the applications afterwards.
Yeah, that's why we make students do their essays first. We don't care about filling out the document. That's something you can be coached through later. It's not that hard to do. Most students can actually do it. So we're more concerned in summer and late spring about starting those UC essays early. And UC has announced last week they're keeping their essays the same this year after much consideration. So students could, if they have the right guidance, start early. And we do that with our students. We started about 15 students early this year. Regular period private colleges are going to be December 1st to 31st. I feel like by the end of the year, all the applications should be in. I don't like this, students still submitting applications in February. I got a call last week that a student was submitting for a school, in March. It really should be over at the end of the year. There's no need to prolong it. It's time to have fun if you're a senior. Well, have fun and do good in school. I don't want to take that too far. So in these last 3 down here, that's where you have the application essays. And we do that support one-on-one in small groups. We do support for essay development. And then of course, the application delivery support, we also will help with as well. But I want to give you a sense of when the application delivery start and how that all begins. Okay. Well, Brother Rex, go ahead.
Yeah, you could go back to the prior chart, please.
Sure.
Yeah, that brings up a question for me and maybe others.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Have you heard the term rolling admissions?
Yes.
Could you explain that, please?
So rolling admission applies more to the out-of-state public universities. They tend to have rolling admissions. In other words, if you apply, I've had students get into out-of-state public universities in October because they'll just look at your stuff. It's all together. In 2 weeks, they'll let you in. So rolling admission means they accept the application, admit students in their own schedule. There's no sense of a one due date out in the future that you have to catch. You're just submitting all along. Now, even those schools have tended to have due dates from now on, but they're in the spring. They're way out there, June and July, I've seen, July 1st, June 1st. Typically, it's out-of-state public universities where we see rolling admission. And there are some exceptions to that rule. Grand Canyon University, which is a Christian school, they're a rolling admission school. They will get your stuff, they'll admit you early. They're not going to wait till March to tell you. When they wait till March to tell you, Rex, that's how you know you don't have a rolling admission school. Our UCs and CSUs are not rolling admission. They'll start telling students, see the CSUs, there are a couple CSUs like Bakersfield and one or two others, that will let you know within 2 weeks of your application. But most of them won't deliver until after the new year into February. Like right now, like today, CSU Long Beach notified students. San Diego State's going to do it tomorrow and the next day. If you get my point, they're not rolling admission. They have a set date, a set schedule, a set timeline they work to, not just taking, come on in, we let you know in 2 weeks. You know, let's see your application, let you know in 2 weeks. They're not like that. That's what rolling admission means. Okay.
Great. One last question. Thank you. That was
last one.
well, now, but that was a great explanation. I've heard it, and now your explanation is
Okay.
perfect, pristine. Thank you. Now, I noticed on the California State Universities, you have October 1st. So I'm assuming that senior has already gone back to previous October 1st and started their FAFSA, FA.
Oh, yeah. Let me clarify. That October 1st day, hey, Christina, you know, that's the day we live for, right, Christina? So that day is the beginning of CSU, but it's also the opening date for FAFSA filing as well. That October 1st day is one of those significant days. So it's the first day you can file a CSU application, to submit a CSU application or file a FAFSA. So October 1st of this year for 11th graders who are 11th grade now, you'll be seniors at that point. That'll be when you can start. It's not the deadline. Like people get freak out when they realize, oh, the FAFSA open, it's due today. No. The due date depends on your colleges. And most colleges' due dates are going to be in March or February, okay? There are some exceptions to that rule, but that's generally what we're looking at. So that was the most direct way I could answer. There are some nuances, but that's the direct answer to October 1st.
All right, thank you.
All right, good. Okay. These are great questions. It's probably, it will help people tremendously. Direct cost comparisons. I thought that would be fun. University of Southern California is $79,000. Again, I'm not talking about financial aid at this point. I will. Harvard University is $74,000 for this year. Duke is $81,020. I mean, they'll go up next year. They'll usually about 5 to, with inflation, they probably go up 7 or 8% this year. Loyola Marymount, $74,900. Laverne, Howard, Arizona State and Arizona. Morehouse Spelman. I picked the more popular schools that I see a lot of applications for to give you an idea of the price of the colleges. But what are our best college buys? We think Boise State's a good buy. Grand Canyon's a good buy. George Washington, D.C. EEP favorable, meaning that they've seen to provide mysteriously extra funds for our students. I wonder why. Lehigh University, it's a middle class favorable pricing. Carnegie Mellon has favorable pricing for parents. Seattle Pacific University and any CSU or UC are going to be good buys, we think. So if you want a good buy, I usually try to get at least one of these schools on the list. There are other schools too. I just couldn't fit them all on here. There are others that I know are good buys as well, but these are the most popular ones this year for our students. Okay. And then some Western public universities like Nevada, Reno, University of Mexico, Northern Arizona, these are also great buys as well for the average 3.4, 3.5 student. It becomes very affordable for parents and doesn't disturb their retirement funds. That's what I exist to do, is protect parents' retirement as much as I can. I never get any protests from that from parents either. Here's some alternate life development models. Here's 2-year college for 1 or 2 years, then a 4-year school. We know of El Camino Project Success, Los Angeles Trade Tech, City College. Those are our 3 favorite possibilities. They're great transfer programs and matriculation agreements, great for parallel career training while progressing to the 4-year degree. Now we get into CSU. Let's see if I'm going to be interrupted. I believe one of you guys is first. Just jump right in there.
Yes. Thank you, Deacon Wilson. So where do CSUs fit in? So California has a great public education system when it comes to universities and colleges. First up here, we have 2-year colleges. So as Deacon Wilson mentioned before, There's a lot of great community colleges. There's 112 and they're available for all students. And there's a lot of great transfer programs to CSUs and to UCs as well. For example, Santa Monica Community College, they have a TAG program, which stands for Transfer Assistance Guarantee. So there's a great program where they can go there, get the 2 years in, and then transfer over to a CSU and a UC. Some tips here for community colleges is just to make sure that you're keeping in touch with your counselor and making sure you're on track. So that way you can do your 2 years at the community college and then transfer over to a CSU and UC and finish it up in 2 years. Because sometimes if you don't talk to the counselor, you might not be able to finish up as soon as you would like at the CSU and UC. Next up is University of California. So there's 9 campuses all throughout California. As Deacon Wilson mentioned before, these are research institutions, and the top 10% of high school students go to UC schools. And then we also have California State University, where there's 23 campuses. So I'm actually a product of the CSU system, so it's really great. The top—
Which one?
For undergrad, San Diego State University, and for grad school, CSU Northridge. And so the top 33 to 40% of high school students attend CSUs. So as Deacon Wilson said, there's a lot of benefits with CSUs. And it's the largest public university system in the country, in the country. So
That's right.
that says a lot about it.
Okay.
Can you go to the next one, please? Next
Sure.
slide.
Sure.
So here's a list of all the CSUs. So the ones that have the asterisk next to them means that they're non-urban CSUs. So in Northern California, we have CSU Chico in Humboldt State. San Francisco Bay Area, we have San Francisco State University, San Jose, CSU Sacramento, Sonoma State, which we go attend Sonoma State a lot, CSU Maritime Academy, and CSU East Bay. In Central California, we have CSU Fresno, CSU Stanislaus, CSU Monterey Bay, CSU San Luis Obispo SLO, and then CSU Channel Island, and then LA area CSU. So not all of these are in LA, but they're around the area. So we have CSU Los Angeles, CSU Dominguez Hills, CSU San Bernardino, CSU Long Beach, and CSU Northridge, where I attended, CSU Bakersfield, CSU Poly Pomona, and CSU Fullerton. And then I think the next list we have are those that are south in the state, which we have CSU San Marcos and San Diego State University, where I attended as well. So yeah, so as you can see, there's a variety of CSUs for you to choose from in all different areas, in all different communities. So that's the beauty of the CSU system.
All right, great. I did want to make an observation. I didn't include the official names of the schools, so I apologize to my team. Like CSU Los Angeles got permission to be, during the pandemic, to be called Cal State Los Angeles, but you get the idea. There's others like that in here too. All right. All right, let me see. All right, I think, is that Christina?
Yes, it's me.
What does it take to get into CSU?
Yeah, so what does it take to get into CSU? Of course, we need to focus on the GPA. So your GPA has to be UC and CSU GPA of 2.5 minimum for the non-impacted CSUs. And we'll talk more about what it means to be in a non-impacted CSU. Test scores will not be required or accepted, which could be a good thing or a bad thing for each, depending on each student. Remember that we're only focusing on A through G subjects, and we'll talk about the A to G requirements. How is this all computed? So we need to look at the cumulative CSU UC GPA, and which would include the 3 years of high school. On the transcripts, you want to look at that, and probably it will be listed either of these ways. You can look at the academic GPA, university GPA, the UC CSU GPA, or as also we know it as the weighted GPA. So just look at the transcript, trying to see how that school has it listed as.
Yeah. Wait, what CSU did you go to?
Dominguez Hills.
Okay, I just want to get that in. Go
But I
ahead.
was a transfer student. So first I went to Western
right.
College.
Yeah, that's right. We're so quick to forget.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. One more thing.
And of course, on the application, you will be required to list any classes that are in progress and planned. So meaning if your student is currently taking courses as a senior in their first semester, that would be considered in progress, and plan would be considered the second semester. So what are we, thinking ahead, what will they be finishing up? I think there's a question from Mr. Rex.
Oh, great, Rex.
Yes, I have a question. I'm a little confused, or actually more educated now, because the part that you have where you says the transcripts is called one of the following. Now, this is on like universal GPA. I've never seen that in my life until tonight. Versus, weighted GPA. Everybody's heard that, academic GPA. So could you just kind of like go over that again for us, please?
Yeah, it depends on the school district, right? So in LAUSD, you're most likely to see UC-CSU GPA. If you're at a magnet school in LAUSD, you'll see university GPA. If you're at any other district, you can see any of these, but they're all meaning the same thing. So what Christina is saying, that's the GPA they're going to look at to determine admission for your student.
Mm-hmm.
They all could be labeled that. Anything else, Christina, you want to say?
No, I think that's it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the schools don't make it really. Why don't they just all say UC-CSU GPA? Anyway, I don't run the system. I just tell what it does.
Right. That's why it's important to locate that transcript and try to figure out what is it called? What do they consider it as?
Yeah, you want to review these, Christina?
Okay, so the A to G requirement that I was just talking about. So this is the following. So with the math, we want to make sure that the student has all of these courses: an Algebra 1A and B, Algebra 2A and B, and Geometry A and B. And of course, we recommend one more year of math. The next thing would be your English. We need 4 years, which is 8 semesters. Mixture of composition and literature. We think that the writing class in 12th grade is mandatory. We need lab science, which can include life science, usually biology, physical science, which is chemistry, and one additional general or lab that goes with either biology or your physical science. History and social science, which would be 2 full years, is 4 semesters, and we just recommend one more year of that. We can go now to the foreign language. We need 2 full years, which is 4 semesters, and it could be Spanish or any other language. Art would also be 1 full year of the same art, which a lot of parents get confused with this one. So we have to make sure it's 1 full year of art. So if it's music, make sure that it's a full year of music. It's not going to be like half year is going to be music and the other one is art. That's where we get a lot of the mistakes. And the electives, we have to make sure we get 2 semesters. 6 semesters are recommended, and additional classes above can meet this requirement as well. So just look at the transcript and kind of make sure to do a little checklist to make sure your student has completed all these courses or we're planning to. Any questions here, or Deacon, do you want to add anything? I think
Just one more thing. If I definitely feel like I want to say they should have 3 or 4 years of foreign language as a recommendation, but usually in the elective area, you could pick an extra subject like extra math, extra language. But I think it's probably strategically smart to have 3 years of a marketable language. And these days it's Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, those kind of things are going to be useful in the job market, especially Spanish. I definitely have a bias toward that. We actually have a person on our team that can help you with getting your student fluent in Spanish within 2 years if you want. Just let me know. Good job, Christina. Course validation, I think is that me, or should I be covering these two, or is that you, Brianna? Is that me? It's me, right?
I think so, yeah. I'm not until a few more slides.
Okay, got it. Okay. Try to stick you with it, huh? Course validation. This is a tricky topic, but I think I got it explained here. Just ask me questions if you're not sure. It's an area that the counselors are not sure of. The newer ones don't understand this very well. If you have a student that has some earlier D's or F's that are made up, the question always is, do they really have to make it up? To be CSU eligible, a student must get a C or above in each of those, quote, A through G course semesters that Christina mentioned. that are self-reported on the CSU application. So therefore, a CSU application should not have a D or an F on it. And if we see that in the data sheet, we stop immediately and figure out a makeup plan for that course. When a student gets a D or an F, either the student must be validated. I'm sorry, I'm just going to flip it around. They can go to summer school and make it up, or an approved online program to make up the course, or it can be validated by future coursework. That could be coursework that could cover the D. That only is in 3 cases though. Validation means that success, A, B, or C, in a future sequence semester of the course where there was a D or F validates or removes the D or F. The following course categories allow course validation: lab physical science, math, and language other than English. Don't worry, we're going to have examples. Summer school, 2-year college, and online work is the only makeup for other courses in the A through G category. So if you have a biology D or F, you got to make it up, right? If you fail a history course, typically you have to make it up. I can see a scenario where you, but it's not a validation issue. Okay, so we have the concept of validation. Then we have these examples. These are actually real life students that we had a couple of years ago. A student took Spanish 1A and got a B, then Spanish 1B and got a D. Spanish 2A and got a D. Doesn't look too good, does it? Some counselors say they got to make up both. But wait a minute, Spanish 2B, they got a C. That Spanish 2B validated the other 2 Ds because it's a later sequence of the course, okay? And remember, it's only in language other than English, math, or physical science. Remember, don't forget that, because those are sequence courses. Here's a student that took French 3A and got a B, and then they took French 3B because they were already fluent and got a C, and that validated French 1 and 2. So they more than met the requirement for language other than English. Interesting, huh? And here's the one that's my favorite. This comes up a lot actually due to the way we teach math in our schools, but that's not what this session is for. Algebra 1, especially now with the pandemic when we had some learning loss in the earlier math classes. Algebra 1A could have been an F. Algebra 1B could be a D. That looks pretty bad, but then Algebra 2A, they got a C, and 2B, they got a B. This student found us for after school, and this validated the Algebra 1 because they cleared Algebra 2, because it's a sequence course allowance for validation. But then in the Geometry A, they got a D, and Geometry B, they got an F. Remember, you have to have 3 maths supposedly, right? But then they took pre-calc and got a C. That pre-calculus C does allow geometry to be validated because they had to use trig in the first semester. And then they dropped pre-calculus B and they went on to CSU. And actually they graduated just last year. That's why you might want to know that. Chemistry, this is the most popular validation. A D in chemistry A, chemistry B, you get a B. You're finished with your physical science requirement. It's a sequence course. Whereas biology is not that way. If you get an F in biology A and biology B, you get a B, you're not finished. This student had to take a semester of anatomy to meet the requirement. I hope that explains course validation. Okay. I used to not talk about it, then I saw students overtaking makeup courses, and I realized I needed to cover it regularly as a part of my CSU description. Okay, I think we go to Brianna, I think.
Actually, you have me on a couple slides after this.
Oh, okay. What about, did I stick you with it? I didn't stick you with it, did I, Christina?
No.
All right, let's talk about impaction. Oops, I missed a word. Area impaction. We got to stop saying impaction, y'all. We should say area impaction. But we always say, oh my God, it's impacted. But really it's area impaction. That's what Christina was referring to earlier when she said, we'll explain that later. Well, here's later right now. Area impaction means that most CSUs will first admit students in their area by high school. not where you live, by your high school. And then there are few or very few spots remaining for additional students from across the state. That's what area impaction means. For example, San Diego, as you heard earlier, really only has 2 CSUs. So you would expect that they have to limit their spots first to San Diego area students and then go outside. And that's what made San Diego State the one of the 2 most difficult CSUs to get into if you're not living in San Diego, okay? And it works both ways. I was speaking at Army Navy High School. Have you ever heard of Army Navy High School, Sister Brianna?
Yes, I have.
I was speaking there about 5 years ago. I was invited there, and I was covering this, and somebody yelled from the back of the room, "What's it going to take for my son to get into Cal State LA or CSU LA?" And I realized, oh my God, I'm in San Diego. He doesn't want to go to San Diego State. He wants to go up to LA. I said he's going to need to be 3.8 or above because he's out of area, right? And I'll never forget when I said that, people in the room said, oh, just like we do with San Diego State. That's the best example of how area impaction works. CSUs that are not impacted, not area impacted, have many spaces for students across the state. They probably will admit with GPAs of 2.5 of the 2.5 minimum. Those are the ones that will admit easier. CSU Dominguez Hills is a fine school, but they're not impacted, okay? Pretty much if you get 2.5 or above, you can get into Dominguez Hills. There's other schools up and down. Bakersfield's that way. Bakersfield will go ahead and admit. Stanislaus will go ahead and admit. Now, I see Humboldt State is now non-impacted. Okay, and there's another 1 or 2 I always forget probably. But here they are here, CSU at Dominguez Hills, see? CSU Bakersfield, Dominguez Hills, Channel Islands, Stanislaus. Oh yeah, San Francisco State is also non-impacted, but they have limited high-price housing. Very limited housing, keep that in mind. I have other problems with going to school in San Francisco, but I'll leave that alone. CSUs that have admissions histories of 2.7 to 3.1. Sacramento State, that's their real name. I have CSU Sacramento. San Bernardino, Poly Pomona for most majors. More on that later, it says majors. Monterey Bay. How about the highest GPA CSUs? SLO, San Diego State, Long Beach, Fullerton, Northridge, San Jose State, Fresno, Cal State, Los Angeles. Now remember, this is if you're out of the area. If you're in Cal State LA's area, it's going to be way easier to get in. You know that. If you're in a Long Beach high school, it's way easier to get in. Let me think about my brother Rex up there. If you're in San Francisco, see, that's San Francisco State, so that's already not impacted. But that gives you an idea. By the way, SLO is on that list. It is the most difficult to admit public university in the nation. Thought I would let you know that. We have it right here in California. It's always in the top 3 or 4 quality public universities in the country. In fact, 11 or 12 of our CSUs are in the top 40 or 50 public universities in the country. Remember, if your high school is in an area of any of these schools, an admissions GPA is 2.5. The exception is Long Beach, which is 2.8 for Long Beach area high school students. Okay.
I had the next one.
Yeah, I believe you do. Go ahead. You ready?
Yeah. So Deacon Wilson mentioned this a little bit, but CSU Poly Pomona has impaction by majors only. So that means that there's certain majors that are impacted. So just keep that in mind. Some other schools have the same situation happening as well. And then CSUN is impacted by major also, even for its area students. So there's certain majors that are impacted, such as TV, video production, business, athletic, physical training, music production. I know particularly CSUN's really big on journalism as well.
Oh yeah, that one too. Yeah.
If like my sister always mentioned, like if you ever watch the show TMZ, you often will see people with CSUN t-shirts on. And so you know that there's a lot of people in journalism, because we live in LA, that go to CSUN. So that's an example of where you have people going to a certain school and really wanting to major in a certain And then all CSUs are impacted by pre-nursing in some way and then nursing itself later. So I have examples of that too at San Diego State, where I had a roommate, she was pre-nursing and it took her forever to get her classes. So just keep that in mind if you are a pre-nursing major, that it might be harder to get into the classes that you need in time.
And that, of course, lends a opportunity for me to say, we're going to show you on this program 3 ways to become a nurse to get around that. You can still be a nurse. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and then CSU Poly-SLO, so like Deacon Wilson mentioned, is the most difficult to admit to public universities in the country. So yeah, it's just a really difficult CSU to get into. But it also is a testament to the CSU system that we have really excellent schools in the system.
Yeah, which is counter to the narrative by some counselors that try to say CSUs are dumb schools or something.
Exactly.
Students, and that's clearly not right. Some of my greatest career students went to CSU, went to an impacted CSU, or went to some CSU.
Exactly. If you can go on to the next slide, please.
Okay.
So how to beat impaction. So you can have a high enough grades in either 1 to 2 AP or honors classes. And I know Deacon's mentioned this before. You don't want to take too many AP classes because then it'll be too difficult on your schedule, but it's good to have like at least 1 or 2 or honors classes to give yourself a leg up in the process. Know which CSUs are impacted for which major. So there's a way to do that. And if you can get the next point, Deacon Wilson, so you can Google impaction at, and then figure out like which majors are impacted. And you should also know which CSUs have which majors. That's very important before you apply and before you decide to attend to a certain CSU. And so you can do that by looking up this website and Googling it and to see like, you know, which CSUs has which majors, and also always apply to your high school's local CSU. That's really important because my high school local CSU was CSU San Marcos. And I remember that was the first university that I got into. So it's really important to apply to those local CSUs because oftentimes you have the grades, it's a guarantee that you could get into that university. And then understand completely the difference between career and major. It's really important to know this because even if you're a certain major, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get into a certain career. So there's a lot of people that have majored in certain areas and then they're doing something totally different in their career. So just keep that in mind. And when you have a certain major, you could apply it to a lot of different careers as well. And then you could always ask us if you have any questions about beating impaction.
And that's the advantage of having us work in your application. We're not going to let you apply to a lot of schools that the student can't get into. So stay close to us in that process. And we're the ones submitting it for you. Of course, we're going to make sure that we have our college readiness meeting that you have the right CSUs on the list, maybe with a stretch or 2, but we'll make sure they actually have CSUs they can get into.
Yes. And then the next slide. So why CSU? So students are accepted with GPAs of 2.5 plus, and Deacon Wilson mentioned that earlier. That's a great thing. The tuition is 11 to 15% of the cost of many selective private colleges. So obviously it's much more affordable than many other options, particularly private schools, and nothing out of pocket for a local CSU. So again, very affordable. And there's more ethnically diverse, more majors than other schools. So yeah, that's one thing I really love about the CSU system is that I remember when I went to CSUN, I was in a group with people that had English as their second language. And so that was a really great learning experience for me because it was such an ethnically diverse campus. And I know that CSUs are doing a really great job making sure that they're increasing diversity with different student centers and all that great stuff. So that's one really great thing about CSU that I really love. And there's more majors in other schools. Like Deacon Wilson said, UC doesn't have as many majors as the CSUs have. So that's a really great thing about it. There's a question.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. I'm in Temecula, and when I see
Okay.
when I see nothing out of pocket for a local CSU, are we speaking San Marcos, San Diego State as far as local?
Well,
you would probably be well, Deacon Wilson, you can correct me, but your local one would probably be San Marcos, I would think.
It's
right?
probably one of those double things, San Marcos and Bernardino.
Yeah, that's true.
It's probably both of
San
them.
Bernardino, okay.
Both of them
Yeah.
have you lassoed.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah,
lot of students out there will have Pomona on their list too, even though
That's
Pomona
very true.
doesn't impact by area, they impact by major. So I definitely think you're on the right track. I think Marcos and Bernardino would say that student would be in their area.
mm-hmm.
The high school would be in the area. Let's put it that way.
Got you. Okay. She's interested in Sonoma and Fresno because they both have riding teams though.
Yeah, no, I think I might have mentioned that to you earlier, that they definitely have a program with horses and riding and care for horses. That's
Okay.
the normal thing. I put another rider there before. That's why I knew. We have another young lady that rode horse. She's now in Montana working for a horse veterinarian or something. She's doing something with horses anyway.
Yeah, she's not interested in like equine studies, but she definitely wants to ride on a collegiate team. And Sonoma and Fresno
Yeah, they do.
and Fullerton have
Yes.
a hunt seat
Yes. Mhm.
team. So, okay.
Yep.
But
Those
free,
definitely got to be on our list.
wait, let's go back. But free, as in nothing out of pocket, applies to.
Well, it actually is going to be a student direct loan, but if you want to take it out, and it is not much to it, they pay like $280 a month for when they leave school. So I think students should pay something for college. That's why I tend to forget it.
Okay.
But that will cover the cost of those schools.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That was
That's a great question.
Hey, by the way, that's why, I'm sorry, Brianna, hold on. That's why when people say, oh my God, we have a college cost crisis, I always put it this way. We have a go out of town and be on campus cost crisis. We don't have a cost crisis in California. You can go to CSU and there's nothing, just have your student loan. And remember, it's the parent loans where all the real debt is. That's another whole meeting though. Go ahead, Brianna.
Yeah, and then students many times say they want to stay close to home. So yeah, that's a great thing about CSUs. There's a lot of commuter campuses. And so if you want to stay home, you want to live at home and just focus on going to school, that's the great thing about CSUs. They really, as we have been emphasizing, they really do look at the local high schools and they want to reach out and get those students. So it's a really great way if a student wants to just stay close to home and not go far away. And and then there are many types of different CSUs, large, medium, small, and there's 23 campuses in various settings. So you can get any type of setting. And as we were just talking about, like different campuses offer different things. So it just depends on what environment you're looking for and what type of setting and how many students you want to be involved with. So that's the great thing about the CSU system.
Okay. I think Christina, you want?
Yes, that's me. So the application timeline and process. So this is where we get involved. So for
Take your
CSU,
time there, preacher.
so for West Day, we love to submit our students' applications right away. So our goal is always to submit them no later than the 20th of October, and the application opens on the 1st. This is the link to the CSU application website. We will be sharing the presentation and I can copy that link as well and put it in the chat. Grades are self-reported using the transcripts. There's no essays required, no teacher recommendation required. Transcripts should not be sent to CSU unless they are specifically requested, which rarely happens, right, Deacon?
But still very rare. I haven't seen it this year yet.
Right. SAT, I don't know if this one's still correct. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, this bullet should be out of there.
Right. I think SAT.
Yeah, there's no more SAT
required for CSU.
Right. Okay. That was another worry we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Scores wouldn't go in.
So that's one less thing for students to worry about. But of course, we have to look at those grades and make sure that they meet the A to G requirements. Next slide.
Yeah, that's right. You just have to do it yourself and make sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're here. Okay.
So common reasons for non-admission or non-enrollment to CSU.
I thought you would like this, Christina. Go ahead.
Yes. So CSU, so the list that your student has perhaps the area is impacted and their student index is too low. So meaning they just don't have those high grades for that particular CSU, because it may vary how, depending on the impacted area or impacted by major. So that's a big thing to consider. Improper major versus the CSU list. So perhaps the CSU that you're interested in does not have that specific major that you're looking for, or it's just worded differently. So we have to really sit down with you and look at those lists and look at the major. And as Deacon always mentions to the students are like, what is your major, your passion compares to your career, which is a big difference. And Deacon can go and talk more further into that.
Mm-hmm.
Students don't regularly read their emails. That happens all the time. Our students are not reading their emails, and it's very important that we start training our students to like look at their emails, because a lot of the CSUs send out important information, and perhaps that can be one of the reasons why they're not admitted. Maybe the CSU says, hey, we're missing something, we need this by X date and X time. And if the student is not looking at their emails, they miss their opportunity to go to that CSU, which really sucks. Students do not properly set up their portals using their initial email or their CSU email.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, so portals, just so parents know, portals are something that students will have to set up after they submit their CSU application. They'll send out a link for you to like follow these steps to set up their portals. And they will indicate how they will communicate. There's some CSUs that says, I will communicate with your student via their personal email that they have created. Others might say, we're going to communicate directly using the portals. And there are other CSUs are going to say, well, we're going to communicate with you with the CSU email that we will provide your students. So there's many things that the student has to be keeping an eye on, so that can be a big thing with non-admission.
Brother Rex?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Two things in my experience, and I agree with what was just said. Mm-hmm. The students, and don't mean to throw any shade on the students on this Zoom, but students are not looking at their emails. No. It's just something that the adults working with the students or students just have to look at your emails and start getting in the habit now, because that's crucial. And I can just say that from personal experience with my granddaughter, just to get her to even look at emails from me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
see the email so you know, so it's huge. And then number two, I've gone through the situation of setting up portals and helping some neighbors, what have you. Those portals can be pretty convoluted sometimes, and so don't wait till the last minute to get those set up. Soon
as an opportunity. Christina? Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
Christina?
Yeah, especially this year. I think there's so much change. Every year it's different, but this year in particular was just kind of weird. Now you need to scan like QR codes, and you need to get a text message, and there's so many things, and it's like I can see how parents and students can get kind of frustrated and just give up. And it's kind of tricky. Sometimes they don't word it correctly. So it's like, what exactly am I supposed to do? So I can really see that. Another thing I want to add is with the emails is a lot of these emails are going to spam. So that's an important thing that also students are checking their spam folders because they can miss that email.
Yeah, San Diego State does that with the first two emails.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to spam, remember?
Yeah, so that's a big thing too. So we just need to get our students in that habit of checking their emails at least every day before they go to bed or in the morning, something just so they can, you know, just get that routine check there.
Hey, I just want to make a comment. I know, Christina, you have two more bullets here, but I do want to make the comment that, look, parents and Brother Rex, you know, you too, I think this is one of those access issues they should pay attention to. I think your average student, they're putting a lot of screens up on them. If they're so concerned about equity, they should be concerned about improving the access to CSU. And that's something every year I complain about. I think all the portals should be the same, and they should be simply done. That's what I think.
Yeah, and just let me piggyback on that. Just 15 seconds here. When I went through the task of getting my granddaughter into a pre-calculus course at Berkeley online, I felt like giving up. It was just so
You
much
felt
to
like
do.
giving up. Oh.
Yeah, you know, they give you an email, then they verify it by texting your phone, and it was just something. I mean, we got through it, but if I had her to do it,
Yeah,
and
what
say,
if
okay,
she had
go,
to do it? Yes,
she wouldn't have been able to do it. Well, she probably would have, but it'd been so frustrating. She would just say what she would try to throw her hands up. It is so involved. Not that you can't do it. It's just so much. So my only recommendation, until they change it and make it simpler, get on it early and get your popcorn, sit down, and don't let anybody interrupt you for about an hour.
Yeah.
I think
So you
we
can stay
agree, right,
focused.
Christina? She's
Oh
an
yeah,
expert
once
on
I
that.
start, because that's what we do too. We offer that service of helping the students. We no longer, we used to like do everything for the students, but I think now it's better for us to kind of do it together as a team. So then the student also experience this, but at the same time, they have the support from the staff. So that's a very important thing. And you're right about that. It takes about an hour or two to get at least 1 or 2 portals up, just depending on how complex it could be.
Yeah, Lord.
Mhm.
All right, go ahead.
Another thing, it can be that grades are not properly self-reported. So that's a big thing because we want to make sure we understand our transcript. And we also want to see if there's any course validation. So if a student has failed a couple of grades or does not have like those perfect grades, we want to look into the self-validation and making sure that those classes are covered, or if we have to, plan ahead and perhaps retake those courses. So that's an important thing to look at now. The A to G requirements are not met or not properly replaced with a better grade. So again, making sure that all the A to G requirements are met, like the math, the English, the science. Again, we will share this presentation so you can look at all those requirements and make sure that the student has met those.
Okay.
Deacon?
I'm going to talk about the positives of CSU UC no test scores for class of 2024. It turns out you'd think that because there's no SAT scores, it will be easier, and you'd be mostly right. I mean, students with GPAs of 2.5 to 2.8 could definitely make it into a CSU if they pick the right CSUs. Many would normally have low SAT scores, might keep them out of those schools, but they can get in. So it's certainly true. It's going to help some students if they pick the right list. Now, low PSAT students, PSAT is offered before the SAT, and low GPA students should focus only on GPA, which is why it's a positive. They can focus only on their in-class performance. Now, I do have this note: if parents are willing to take on larger debt than CSU, yes, the SAT is still important. So if they have 2.5 to 2.8, and they're willing to go to other schools and take on the debt, then they're going to need to take the SAT to try to minimize it in some cases. Okay. Let's continue. Negatives. I bet you think, what? There's negative in those tests? Yes, there is. 65% of our students last year anyway would not have gotten into their desired CSU the last year they had the SAT without the SAT score they got. Nearly, because we're the SAT prep program. We do Princeton Review SAT prep. So clearly our students have higher scores. So that our students are going to be more advantaged by schools that require it, but the CSUs don't, nor do the UCs, by the way. Nearly 33% of our students got into CSU only due to their SAT scores before. 1/3 of our students, they had GPAs of 2.2 to 2.5. These will need to go to a 2-year college now, right? Even though CSU and UC will accept pass-fail for some semesters, they will accept pass-fail for certain semesters according to AB Assembly Bill 104. It's not clear how previous Ds and Fs will be made up if fall high school remains online. So we've got a lot of issues with making up grades too still that we've got to be concerned about. When you don't have test scores, you got to really look at, gee, was this before those AB 104s? Was it after? Do they have to go around and take an online course? It makes it a little messier not having test scores. So it's very interesting. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's probably 50-50 on whether it's a great thing. Consider UC. The UCs, well, this is a typo to say UC up here. I haven't corrected that. I can't believe it. If you're wondering about UC, they're having a nightmare of a time figuring out for all these great students that apply, how to distinguish one from another. So when you do that, there's a lot of things that appear to be not fair in there. And it's something, everybody believes that UC will go back to requiring tests next year. That's a rumor. They keep denying it. They're going to have their version of the digital SAT is the rumor. So stay tuned. We'll know in about a month or two if they're going to require it for 11th and 12th. Students are in 10th and 11th right now. Local, okay. Did one of y'all doing these or am I doing these? I'm doing these, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What will CSU cost? Let's run through it. Local CSUs are nearly nothing out of pocket. So there's that comment there, Sister Wimberly. It's nearly nothing out of pocket. If a student lives at home, it's about $1,500 a year. So you're talking about $150 a month probably to send them to a local CSU. I call that almost nothing, right? CSU Long Beach, Dominguez Hills, LA. And notice how the list will change if you're in Temecula, right, Sister Wimberly? Pomona, it's a little driving. Fullerton, a lot of non-sustainable driving. Northridge, a lot of non-sustainable driving. So if you're in LA City, this is the way I see the list here. So it's almost nothing out of pocket if you can get to the campus. For families who make $45,000 or less, it's going to be $3,000 to $6,000 for 1 year, including room and board and tuition and fees. That's called direct cost. For families who make $45,000 to $56,000, it's going to be $6,000 to $10,000 for 1 year. For families that make more than 50 or 55, 56,000, it's 10,000 to 8. You might remember seeing these numbers yesterday if you're in that meeting. 10,000 to 18,000 for 1 year. It includes room and board plus tuition and fees, and this is called direct cost. Okay, I think that's somebody.
That's me. Yeah.
Ben, you got it.
Yeah. So the highest direct cost for CSUs, $25K plus per year. First up, San Diego State University, then San Jose State, San Francisco State, CSU Poly, San Luis Obispo, CSU Fullerton, CSU San Marcos, and CSU Northridge. So those are the highest direct cost CSUs for you all.
I have to correct some of these typos in here. All right, well, we're about done. You can contact my team at westa.eep@gmail.com. We can have a college readiness meeting. We'd love to do that. Just email us there. Bring the 3-year transcript plus the test scores if you have any. College list will be developed at the college readiness meeting. It's a free meeting with us. We help you develop the college list. You got to bring that transcript. So when you get the transcript, you should email us with 2 dates and times, and I'll pick one for us, and we'll be there. I'll be there with one of my workers, one of these two probably, or someone else. We'll be in there, and we'll show you how to request any forms you need to request, etc. Speaking of that, here's more contact information for Christina and for Brianna. You're welcome to get a hold of them. They're experts on this stuff too. And of course, I have my information as shown there as well. You can reach me at holythinkers@gmail.com. And I always provide my cell number. Now we'll have a video of this available online. We're gonna email out, I don't know, did we get to put the presentation up?
Yes, I put it in the chat.
Oh, great, it's in the chat. Well, starting tomorrow, if you have subscribed to our YouTube channel, you'll see on the live side, this meeting on video, you can go back and look at. It'll probably be up by about 9 or 10 o'clock. We might do some editing of it, we'll see. And you can go there and get the presentation as well. Okay, that's all we have today, unless there's any questions. That's a good overview of CSU for you. Any questions? I probably should have had somebody look. I think we have 4 people looking at live, but that's okay. They'll let me know. I got a couple of questions in there the next day. All right, well, thank you all for coming today. And definitely get a hold of us if you feel we can help in any way. Before you get that $8,000-9,000 consultant, $3,000 consultant, just come on to us. The church has invested $200 and some thousand in this program. So you don't have to do that. We know the admission process extremely well here. And I'll be glad to give you a hand. God bless you.